Welcome back to Stoic Psycho Mind. If your mind feels like a room where the lights are always on, thoughts buzzing, replaying, predicting, today's conversation is going to feel like someone finally putting a name to what you've been feeling. Overthinking has a root cause people rarely talk about, and once you see it clearly, your relationship with your own mind changes in a big way.
It's crazy because the explanation isn't just philosophical or psychological. It's both. The way your mind works has been understood for thousands of years, and now modern science is finally catching up.
Let's start with something simple. People don't overthink because they have too many thoughts. People overthink because they're afraid of letting thoughts pass without controlling them. Your brain believes every thought is either a threat that must be prevented or a problem that must be solved right now. The more you try to control every possible outcome, the louder your mind becomes. The Stoics put it perfectly: the mind becomes unstable when it tries to grasp what is outside its control. So the act of trying to force certainty actually fuels the spinning of your thoughts.
So the real issue isn't the thinking, it's the fear behind it?
Exactly. Overthinking is fear disguised as analysis, fear of messing up, fear of being judged, fear of regret, fear of uncertainty. Most people don't spiral because they're deep thinkers. They spiral because they're terrified of discomfort and unpredictability. Psychology confirms it. The more someone avoids emotional discomfort, the more the brain creates scenarios to fix it. That's the loop. The Stoics talked about peace of mind, and they weren't talking about empty calm. They were talking about the ability to stand in uncertainty without collapsing.
Can you give a real-life example here? Something that shows how this plays out?
Think about when someone doesn't text you back. What happens in your head? It becomes a scriptwriter. Did I say the wrong thing? Are they losing interest? Are they disappointed in me? Am I not good enough? The mind isn't being dramatic. It's trying to protect you from uncertainty by creating explanations, even if they're terrible ones. Here's the Stoic reality. You can't control their phone. You can't control their mood. You can't control their intentions. But you can control your behavior. Once you accept that, most of the mental noise disappears.
That's a game changer. Most people think peace comes from knowing what's happening, not from accepting what they can't know.
Exactly. When you reduce resistance to uncertainty, your brain stops running endless what-if scenarios. Modern neuroscience calls this the default mode network, the part of your brain that becomes active when you're not focused. In overthinkers, it's hyperactive because the brain is trying to solve emotions instead of letting them be experienced. The Stoics said, "Observe your emotions, do not argue with them." Thought spirals happen when you refuse to feel anxiety, guilt, awkwardness, or shame. Stop resisting, and the mind stops creating extra work.
So it's not the emotion itself, it's the resistance to it?
Exactly. Resistance is overthinking. Here's how the Stoics handled it. Most people try to think their way into peace. Stoics make decisions that create peace. Thinking has no finish line. Decision does. A Stoic asked themselves 3 questions. Is this in my control? What is the simplest action I can take? What must I accept instead of resist? These questions shut down loops before they begin. Now here's a technique combining Stoicism with modern psychology, the 2-sentence method. When your mind spirals, say, "I can control," "I cannot control." Act on the first and release the second. For example, I can control my actions. I can't control how people interpret them. I can control how I respond. I can't control someone's mood. I can control my habits. I can't control how long growth takes. Your mind calms as soon as it sees you don't need total control to be safe. Overthinking feels personal because the voice in your head sounds like you, but your thoughts aren't personal. They're learned patterns. If you grew up around criticism, you overthink mistakes. If you grew up around unpredictability, you overthink danger. If you grew up lacking reassurance, you overthink your worth. The Stoics said, The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Psychology adds, those thoughts aren't your identity, they're your training, and anything learned can be unlearned.
That's something people need to hear, that mental patterns aren't permanent.
Exactly. If you take one thing from this episode, let it be this. Your mind isn't broken, it's just overprotective. The moment you stop demanding total control, your thoughts stop shouting for attention.
And that's why this channel exists. To combine Stoic clarity and psychological insight. So you don't just understand your mind, you actually change how it works.
Thanks for listening. This is Stoic Psycho Mind.